Well, first of all, it is an accusation. So I would like to see how the Society of St. Pius X responds to it. Uh, I think that their only credible way of responding to this would be by a point by point refutation of it, where they show what may be true, what may be distorted, what may be exaggeration, what may be untrue. Uh, so it rests right now as simply an accusation. I don't think it's going to do the Society of St. Pius X any good to merely get angry with their accusers and to lash out at them. I think that would increase the suspicion, actually, that it may be true. If there are distortions or exaggerations or untruths, Society of St. Pius X ought to respond to those things and make it clear. If they want to, I think that's the only adequate response that they can give to this accusation, because it's a serious accusation. And if you look at the video, it's very credible. It seems to be well researched. But again, is it true? Or is it entirely true? So I think there has to be some caution in forming an opinion about it. I would say also this, that they have 600 priests. There are about 10 or 15 priests who are mentioned in this thing. Compared against 600, I think that you should, not include obviously everybody in it, or say that their entire manner of acting with regard to these things is bad. I think that would be way overboard. I would venture to say that the vast majority of their priests act in accordance with the law of God and in accordance with their priestly character. So. I think that caution ought to be made as well, that you're dealing with some people who have misbehaved. And it's important to point out as well that every single organization and every single walk of life has people or have people who misbehave, who do things that are wrong, and many times sexually wrong. And so it should not be too surprising. There's some in that organization as well. The priests are human beings. They have free will, and despite their good training, in many cases, they do very bad things, and it's a terrible crime from the ecclesiastical point of view and even from the civil point of view when they do these things. It's a sin. But every walk of life, there are bad policemen, there are bad firemen, there are bad politicians, there are bad doctors. Every walk of life has some people that go bad. So I think you have to realize that as well, that you should not say all of their priests are tainted or anything like that. I think that would be going overboard. So what to think about it? If it is true, I think it's very alarming. Not so much that there are priests who are misbehaving. That's very bad. But what is far more important is how they're handling it. Notice how the government of that organization is handling it. And I think that's the more alarming aspect about it is, are these priests who are misbehaving, if they are misbehaving, how does the organization treat them? And it would seem from what has been said that they are rehabilitating them and sending them to other places, which is exactly what Novus Ordo attempted to do with their own priests who are misbehaving. They would send them to psychiatrists for a while and give them a rest, and then they would put them back in a parish where in many cases they were able to harm the very people that they originally harmed. That's disturbing because when a priest misbehaves, he must be treated in a very, very strict and even harsh way.
Yes, and one thing I have seen reactions to the report. Some people saying everyone should be considered innocent until proven guilty, which is obviously true. On the other hand, there is testimony of people who have given their names. There is a priest in the report, other former members of the society that give testimony in the report. So, on the other hand, I think also we shouldn't think that necessarily all the accusations are false when people are. I mean, somebody actually died and committed suicide.
I think that the report by Church Militant is very credible. It sounds credible. It rings true. And I also know of certain cases in the past, personally, that even were not mentioned on the video, of rehabilitation of priests who seriously misbehaved in the Society of St. Pius X. So I'm not too surprised to hear this. Now, what I know is in most cases not direct knowledge, but things that I have heard, but on good authority, and I have no reason to doubt it. So I'm not very surprised to hear this accusation, because from what at least I know in the past, they have had I would say a soft approach to priests that misbehave.
And for those, Your Excellency, who do not know, you were a member of the Society St. Pius X. You were ordained by Bishop Lefebvre.
Yes.
You were, correct me if I am wrong, you were the superior of the seminary here in the United States?
Yes, from 1977 to 1983.
So you really, you may say, you know the internal government of the society very well.
Yes, I do, and but even when I was outside of the society, I knew of certain cases that I was very surprised at. Where I would have treated the problem very differently. Let's put it that way. In other words, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as our organization, the Roman Catholic Institute, is concerned, any kind of sexual misconduct on the part of priests is handled in a very, very strict way. The first, if there is a credible accusation, the priest is automatically suspended. That means he cannot say Mass, he cannot do anything, any sacred act, sacraments, anything. And that is not to say he's guilty. That is simply to say that we don't know, and as a precaution, we are going to have you stop functioning. And as I said, that is to say nothing about his innocence or his guilt. Then, in a very short amount of time, he is summoned to appear before the Superior General and other priests that are appointed by the Superior General in order to determine the truth of the accusation, and if necessary, the accuser is called in to face the accused, and there can be cross-examination by both the Superior General or the priests that are interrogating, or each other. The accused and the accuser can in front of the Superior General and the other priests, the judges, that they can have a conversation about what exactly happened, and so that a whole group of judges can make a determination to see if it is true or not. And in that case, if the accusation is deemed to be true, then what happens is that the priest is sent away permanently from the Roman Catholic Institute with no ability to ever return. And we do not have the ability to defrock a priest. Only the bishop of the diocese has authority to defrock a priest. But I would tell such a priest, you should abandon the priesthood. you should go out and get an honest job. You should just not function as a priest anymore after having done such a thing. And we would treat him that way. We would not have anything to do with him anymore after that. That's the way we would handle it. So there would be no rehabilitation possible, no counseling or anything like that. If you misbehave in that way, you're out. That's it, and you can never come back. And we will never have any kind of apostolate with you, even in a remote way. You're just out. We never really want to hear from you again. And our group of priests, the Roman Catholic Institute, they understand that. That has to be the law. And that would prevent a lot of this. If they knew that there was no way in which to recover from such an act, that would prevent a great deal of it, in my opinion. But apparently, and from my own experience in the past, and apparently from this report, allegedly, they've have had a much different approach to it, a softer approach to priests who have misbehaved.
Your Excellency, a question that may be asked by someone is, what about denunciation, or to make the name of priests that misbehave public? That's not necessarily a good idea either, right?
Well, I think there has to be crime and punishment. I think everyone should understand that in all times of the church, in all of church history, there were priests who misbehaved. Everyone must understand that priests are not angels necessarily. They ought to be, but they're not angels necessarily. And like every organization, some of them will go bad. So I think that the preservation of privacy in it could be very detrimental, because I think what is satisfactory to people, to the faithful, is that if they see someone who has misbehaved and he's punished for it in the correct way, the way I described for our own priests, that there is crime and punishment, that there is justice done. For example, in society, there are criminals. An ordered society is one which arrests the criminals and tries them and punishes them. That's an ordered society. A disordered society is one in which the police are corrupt and they're paid off and criminals have free reign and they can function as they will. I think that any ecclesiastical society should be an ordered society in which criminals are punished according to their crimes. And I think that would satisfy people. But to keep everything hushed up, I think is worse. Yes, there would be some scandal. There would be a scandal that somebody did something terrible. But I think the defense of that is that this is something exceptional and we have taken care of it. He is punished. You will never see him again. And I think that it would give people more confidence about what they're doing. But to hush it up and move people around and have people disappear and is a very, very improper and imprudent way in which to act, in my opinion.
Your Excellency, the misbehavior on the part of priests always existed, as you mentioned, but we have seen after Vatican II an increase of that, especially in the Novus Ordo. So there is obviously a relationship between doctrine and the practice of the faith and morals. It seems that the priests are affected by the doctrinal problems too.
You're talking about the Novus Ordo?
The Novus Ordo,
yes.
And if the society wants to join the Novus Ordo, they will be, it seems to me, necessarily affected by that lax approach to doctrine.
Yeah, so the Novus Ordo, I remember it when it came in. There was this whole sort of mentality that the church was too strict in the past, and that you should follow your instincts. You should become more human, as they told us. You should interact more with human beings. This was against all of the traditional spirituality, which was that while you're not being unfriendly with human beings, your focus is on God in the seminary and on God in your priesthood, and that your relationship with other human beings, whoever they should be, is peripheral and accidental. A prime example is it used to be that the priest, after saying Mass, would go and make his thanksgiving right in the sanctuary. He would kneel down and say his prayers of thanksgiving. After Vatican II, the priest would go down the aisle and stand at the door of the church, just like the Protestant ministers do, and greet the people. And, I noticed that when I was younger. I thought, this is really Protestant. The Holy Mass is something that is so sacred that there should be praying after Mass, not interaction of people. I was offended by that. But that was typical of the Novus Ordo, was that we have to become more people-oriented, more relaxed, and you can see that in all of their ways. Also, subjectivist morality came in. That if you think it's all right, use your conscience. So you can use your conscience with regard to birth control, and you can decide that the law is only suggestive, and there are exceptions to the law, even natural law. That birth control, that although officially condemned, there are exceptions, and even Benedict XVI, he said that people can use birth control devices, so the general relaxation of morality that took place in the Novus Ordo, a humanization, you might say, in a bad sense, of the church, took place in the Novus Ordo. And I think that led to misbehavior among priests, sexual misbehavior among priests, that I don't think they were praying much. I think they were very humanized, and they were following instincts. They in order that a priest maintain his celibacy, he has to be praying, and he has to be very supernatural. He has to avoid the occasions of sin, and the occasions of sin can be merely an excessive relationship with a woman, for example, that happens in counseling. So he has to maintain a guard in all of those things, and be very, very careful in all of those things. So I think that's the Novus Ordo mentality, and I think that's why you had so much of that in the Novus Ordo, and then the idea of cover up. The Novus Ordo became very tight with psychology. I remember that too. And so psychology will cure the person who is misbehaving sexually. So you send him to a psychiatrist. And this was practiced for decades, and then sent back into the parish. So that idea that there is not a strict moral law that must be adhered to. They lost the sense of the sanctity and height, we might say, of the priesthood. The priest as a consecrated vessel, a priest as another Christ, and who should be manifesting all the virtues of Christ. They lost sight of that. The priest became just some sort of minister that did something at the altar, and then organized various parish activities, and that was a major change in the priesthood itself. That they lost the sense of their own dignity. They were not dressing as priests anymore. Used to be the priest you could always see he was in a cassock or in his suit. He was well dressed and well put out, dignified, and he was somebody that commanded respect just by his appearance. Whereas the priests now are you can always tell they're priests because they're so badly dressed. But they look like slobs, and I think that it's part of the degradation of the priesthood. So they no longer had that idea that I am a sacred vessel. I cannot do what I may be inclined to do because it would offend God. It would offend the sacred character that I have received. That's gone in them. So in many of them, I'm not saying all of them, but in many of them, has disappeared. And so I think that's what led to a lot of what happened in the Novus Ordo. You cannot maintain celibacy if you do not maintain your guard. And I always tell the seminarians here that in dealing with members of the opposite sex, that you have to communicate to them by a certain reserve that you are not available. Sometimes ladies get a little bit too familiar with priests, and you have to communicate to them by a certain reserve that you're not available. So that's a very important thing for a priest. Otherwise, he may easily fall. And then there's all of the other problems too. But the Society of St. Pius X, I would say, if these things are true, it would seem to me that because of their desire to be part of the Novus Ordo, that they have inherited some of the attitudes of the Novus Ordo. Of this idea of fixing people up, priests up who have misbehaved and reassigning them in various places. I think that that's probably the case. I haven't been with them for many, many years, but from what I hear from parishioners that go there, I hear that they are very much influenced, especially since 2012 or even earlier, by the Novus Ordo. They want to be absorbed by the Novus Ordo, and there's a lot of attitudes among them that are typical of Novus Ordo priests. And I think that this may be one of them. Again, if it's true, we'll see, how this all plays out. But, I think that would be the cause of it.
And as you said before, the society needs to answer this because it's very serious.
They need to answer this. This is a very serious accusation. It's documented. It's not merely somebody writing a nasty letter. They need to go through this one by one, every case one by one, and answer it. And if they have made any mistakes, I think that they should say we made mistakes, instead of trying to just put up some sort of hard defense of it that our enemies are evil people and none of this is true, they need to be very open about the whole thing, in my opinion, to preserve any credibility they may have. I disagree with them theologically entirely, but this is really a different thing. This is misbehavior of priests and how to go about disciplining priests who misbehave, which really has nothing to do with Catholic theology in itself, But I'm just looking at them as an organization, but I do think they should do some soul searching. If any of this is true, they should do some soul searching about their relationship with the Novus Ordo, and why they want to be absorbed by that organization, that awful poison of the Catholic Church that the Novus Ordo is. I think that they should take a much harder line with regard to it.